And the Federal Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, joins me from Canberra. Treasurer, good evening to you.
Nice to be with you, Chris.
So, have we avoided recession?
Well, we've certainly put a major and substantial package of measures to announce today, and that will help support the economy. It's all designed to keep Australian businesses in business and Australian workers in jobs. As you know, there were 6 main measures that we announced today. They were supporting cash flow of small businesses, encouraging more investment. There's also money that will go into a particular fund to help those geographical regions that have been affected, and then there will be $750 cash payments to 6.5 million Australians, money that will be spent across the economy to support it at this challenging time.
I thought it was well targeted, I thought it was well thought through, and I thought it would probably gain a certain amount of traction, but I'm worried at this time that you've got this coordination between a stimulus package to help the economy, but also you've got people who, you know, in the toilet paper raid on supermarkets told us that many people want to stay at home during this period. They want to lock themselves up. They want to keep away from any other person that might have the virus. You're trying to get them to spend, but if they're locked up at home, there's not too much spending going on. Are you concerned at that?
Well, Chris, Australians, just like the Australian government, should be following the medical advice. And right now, the medical advice is saying go along to your footy match, go along to your other sporting events or mass gatherings. That is, it's not the medical advice at this point in time to have those cancelled. What we do know is that the Australian government has moved ahead of many other nations in putting in place those travel restrictions. That has helped prevent the spread of the virus here in Australia compared to some other nations. But we've also seen disruption to end-to-end supply chains. We've also seen the tourism industry take a hit, as well as the international education industry. So our package of measures, and it's a significant one, it's $17.6 billion, are targeted measures. They're all temporary measures, and it's proportionate to the challenge we face.
$750 cash handouts to pensioners, also to low and medium income holding families. So this is part A, part B of that handout. Do you think that despite the fact that they haven't had much of a pay increase for the last 11 or 15 years, that they too, do you fear that they too might hang on to that money and pay a mortgage payment or a bill that they haven't paid?
Well, Chris, the experience is that they will spend that money and that will, encourage economic activity across the economy. They might spend it at their local restaurant or their corner shop or in purchasing something for the home. That will all be good news for the economy. But what we've done overwhelmingly in this package is focus on small and medium-sized businesses. 3 out of every $4 are going to backing businesses, because we know businesses employ people, and when there are difficult times like the current period, these businesses want to hold on to their workers, and the government supporting them with cash flow support will be important. We've also backed, obviously, Australia's apprentices, and 117,000 apprentices will benefit from a wage subsidy that we're providing.
Small business is the key, as you point out, but there's a lot of go early, go hard, go families in all of this. Are you sure you didn't have Ken Henry in the background in Treasury helping you along?
Well, the GFC was a very different economic shock to this one. The GFC was a banking crisis around liquidity in financial markets. This is a health crisis which is having a significant economic impact. What is different about the Rudd's response and the response that we're undertaking right now is that they set up a whole lot of those programs. Remember the pink bats, remember the overpriced school halls. We've used our existing tax and transfer system, and we haven't splashed cash around. What we have done is undertaken a series of measures in a very targeted way, and we're focused overwhelmingly on business, and that's what the Australian people would expect from a coalition government.
So can you assure us, based on Kevin Rudd's experience, or our experience of Kevin Rudd, that we won't have pensioners who are living in Lebanon getting money, or we won't have dead people receiving cheques?
We know that obviously our existing tax and transfer system will get that money to those people who need it, and obviously what we saw in the mistakes of the past is something we don't want to see repeated.
The market didn't react too well today, or is that more of a reflection of what Donald Trump didn't do as opposed to what you did do?
Well, Chris, you know that the market volatility is occurring around the world, not just here on our own stock exchange, and there are a lot of factors at play. A few days ago there was a big drop in the market, and that reflected what Saudi Arabia and Russia were saying about their oil supplies. In this case, the words from the United States did have, no doubt, have an impact on investors' minds. But we're playing the long game here. What we are seeking to do is to provide support to the Australian economy, particularly business and investment, and boost confidence at a time when it's needed. But there will be another side. There will be another side of this coronavirus, and we want to come out stronger and a more productive nation as a result.
This is entirely federally powered, as you used today. I think you used the word supercharged. Why didn't you drag the states and the territories in before announcing this today and force them to put their hands in the pocket in the same package?
Well, the federal government is doing the heavy lifting, but there's nothing stopping the states and the territories having their own initiatives. Indeed, in South Australia, the Marshall government made a significant number of announcements around supporting additional spending through infrastructure. We've seen in Queensland some deferral of payments of payroll tax. Of course, initiatives such as those are welcome because they support the economy, but it's up to the states to make their own decisions. We didn't want to rely on the states. We wanted to put in place a very substantial federal economic response. And I say to your viewers, Chris, the hard work that the coalition government has done over the last 6.5 years has given us this financial firepower to use at a time when it's needed. We returned the books back to balance, that we delivered the first balanced budget in 11 years. We inherited a huge fiscal mess from our political opponents, and now we can use that money effectively where it's needed.
Is there some responsibility on ordinary, everyday Australians to take the cues that you've given us today, to accept some of the personal responsibility, and, I don't know, in the old JFK term, do something for the country and help out and get out there to spend the money and assist us to get off our knees? Do you think there's responsibility on behalf of Aussies too?
Well, Aussies have a collective interest, and their interests are the government's interests, namely to keep people employed and to support businesses get through this tough period. This is a global pandemic, as you said, Chris, at the start of the program. We couldn't have foresaw what we are actually seeing now with the shutters of the global economy going up. This is a very, very significant event. Some say a one-in-a-century type of event, and it's our collective responsibility, and everyone, I think, is chipping in to ensure that the nation gets through it, just as we know we will.
Will you be forcing or being very forceful with premiers and territory chiefs tonight or tomorrow when you meet them about their responsibility too as a result of today?
Look, I'm having good dialogue with my state and territory counterparts. Met with the Northern Territory Treasurer today. Spoke just yesterday with the New South Wales Treasurer, and I know that they're all thinking about their own particular initiatives in their own areas, and the Prime Minister will be working cooperatively with the Premiers and the Chief Ministers at tonight's dinner and at tomorrow's COAG. We are, at the end of the day, all Australians, and we have a collective interest in getting through this and being stronger on the other side. The government's measures, both on the fiscal side, the economic side, as well as that $2.4 billion health package that we announced yesterday, are very substantial investments in Australia's future.
It's a big job. You've got 25 million people eyeing the markets over the next 3 months, hoping that you could rescue, with this stimulus, rescue us from a recession. And it's all on the shoulders of yourself and the Prime Minister. It can be a very serious game, politics, can't it?
It certainly is, but it's a team effort. It's not about the Prime Minister. It's not about me. It's indeed not even about the Cabinet or the government. It's about what is in the best interests of this nation. We'll do our bit. Because we're taking the best possible advice from Treasury and from the chief medical experts. But this is a very challenging time, Chris. It's a health crisis first and foremost, and it's very different to the GFC, but it's having a significant economic impact. But Australians can be rest assured that we are as well prepared as any other nation. We've got the books back in balance. We've got a great health system. We're investing on both sides of the ledger, both the health and the economic side, to produce really good outcomes for the Australian people.
All right, we'll be checking on the length of your fingernails in about a month's time, but thank you very much for your time tonight and all the very best.
Thanks, Chris, and all the best to you and your viewers.